Good afternoon. I'm Tommy Marks. I'm the director of the Minority Business Development Agency's Federal Procurement Center, which is a part of the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council, which is run by our president and CEO, Sharon Pender. I'm here today with my colleagues from the Department of Treasury, in particular, Ms. Melissa Jenkins, as we will co-host for you today's event. Again, welcome to the Department of Treasury's Executive Institute for Historically Black Colleges and Universities Town Hall. The question you'd ask is why we're here. Not sure what happened. Again, we'll be talking about procurement opportunities from the Department of Treasury by Ms. Michelle Zager, and leveraging micro purchases by Ms. Michelle Mckenzie from the Irs Small Business Office, and then the Treasury initiatives by Ms. Melissa Jenkins. So it is indeed my pleasure to introduce today Ms. Melissa Jenkins, who is the program manager for women-owned small businesses and industrial liaison responsible for historically Black colleges and universities. And she will be on shortly. I share with you about hello, Melissa, welcome. And at this time, Melissa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Jenkins. I serve as the Women-Owned Small Business Program Manager and your Outreach and Inreach Program Manager and Program Analyst for Historically Black Colleges and Universities for the U.S. Department of Treasury. It is an honor to be in the room today with some powerful thought leaders in government and HBCU university heads and industry. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Tommy Marks, MBDA, and the Graybill team for hosting this webinar. Federal government partners and academic leaders that came across the country to support our panel. In today's discussion, you will learn about Treasury's path forward for our HBCU initiative. At the end of the presentation, you will get an opportunity to have open dialogue with all of us, where we will exchange ideas. The idea of the town hall is for us to get to know you and for you to get to know us and for us to build a relationship. So we want to build a relationship with our nation's HBCU community. While we may not have all the answers, what I do know is that we would exercise due diligence in reporting back anything that we've learned from today's session to the White House Initiative for HBCUs, the contracting cluster, and also my senior leadership team, so that we can see how we can enhance the customer experience to HBCUs. Today, you will get tactical advice and tools to game up. We want you to game up and level up to participate in federal contracting and grants at the U.S. Department of Treasury. When the Treasury Hbcus started on this journey, the journey of developing our HBCU program, the first thing we thought about was doing research. And we wanted to research on agencies that had best practices. And we wanted to do so because we knew that there were some agencies that were doing some great work even before we were tasked to increase competitiveness and capacity by virtue of Executive Order 13779. That executive order is to propel opportunities in contracting and grants for HBCUs. And I'm happy to note that the first person that populated to the top was Mr. Tommy Marks. Mr. Marks, in that moment, we immediately knew that we were going to have a transformative initiative for HBCUs here at Department of Treasury. And here's what we know about HBCUs. We know that HBCUs provide a culture of caring, and a culture which prepares students to contribute to their communities. It also builds confidence. It builds confidence in the underserved community, as well as by virtue of the talent pool that students learn, they are able to see jobs. We know that HBCUs provide the highest talent pool in IT and cyber. So we're happy about that at the Department of Treasury. And we know that you, HBCUs, can help bridge the gap at a time where it's needed most, right? Where we can achieve the pipeline that currently exists in America. As the country moves closer to becoming a majority population, several opportunities exist for HBCUs, from increased enrollments to funding and overall attention. However, what we do know is that strategic leaders such as Mr. Marks and my senior leadership and team at Treasury, we have being led by Ms. Donna Ragucci, who has been instrumental in propelling this initiative forward. Also, we have Ms. Pamela Wilson, who has been supportive in our group, and we also have Mr. Brian Watson, who is our CIO exchange agent at Treasury. So we're happy to have a wonderful team at Treasury. In today's discussion, you will learn about Treasury's path forward for HBCUs, and we want you to gear up and use due diligence in pursuing contracts and grants for Treasury. And I would be remiss if I didn't provide you with my contact information, because I want you to inbox me today. If you're interested in getting a seat at the table today, let's start that conversation today. My email address is melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov. And now I will actually turn it back to Mr. Mark. And we thank you for joining us, and we would like to begin inviting our panelists to our virtual stage. Thank you.
I seem to be having some technical issues with my computer where it's doing its own thing. It doesn't like to hear what I'm saying, muting me on and off. So I would ask Michelle at this time to begin her presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Tommy. Can folks hear me?
Yes, Tommy.
That's awesome. So I am from the Treasury Executive Institute. My name is Michelle Zager, as Tommy said, and I am so excited to be here. You can ask Lisa. I had been telling her just for so long. I'm like, when can we do this? I was bugging her last year. I am so glad we are finally here, and thank you so much for joining us. Next slide. So a little bit about what TEI is. We are actually a shared service. So what that first bullet is showing is that we have over 40 client partners. Those client partners are other federal agencies ranging from the Air Force to the National Gallery of Art. There is no commonality as far as mission between all of those great government agencies, except for the fact that they're all executive level, or the 2 grades that feed into the executive level, the GS 15s and 14s, and that their training is aligned around the Office of Personnel Management, which is like the big government HR's executive core qualifications. So the executive core qualifications are leading change, leading people, results driven, business acumen, and building coalitions. And there's so much, obviously, that can go under each of those categories. So it means it's a lot of training that we offer every year, close to 200 different sessions from speakers, workshops, on demand, and we do have our own executive coaching. Some of our great speakers that we've had in the past include, when he was at Georgetown, David Thomas, to talk about his perspective on diversity and inclusion. And one of the favorite types of speakers for executives in particular are historians, so we can learn from past leaders. So we've hosted the preeminent Lincoln historian Edmund Medford from Howard. So it's not what you would necessarily think of, just what's in, let's say, a college curriculum that you might see. We offer just a whole variety because we know what's going to interest the different folks at all these different agencies is going to be a little bit different. We do try to help folks by having badges. So this year, our badges include virtual leadership and positive leadership, so that if people want to have a little bit of a framework, they can, as well as we have our own certificate program. Next slide, please. So why partner with Treasury Executive Institute other than we're the coolest folks? It's because we have these great clients with exciting missions. And to be honest, while you partner with us, you get visibility by the top leaders who do have the procurement authority if they want to then say, hey, I want you for my own agency. So it's a great way to be introduced to the federal sphere. Next slide, please. So here are some of our outstanding requirements. And I do want to point out anything under the ECQs right now, we would certainly like to see. And just like Lisa can send me an email by the end of the day, I definitely will be looking at them. But to help you, some of our most specific requirements right now on the training side, we're looking for virtual, in particular webinars, because right now we are not authorized to be doing any in-person training, as well as we're looking for some more on-demand options. The specific topics that we're looking for, and these are based upon OPM, and again, that's the big HR in the sky for the federal government. These are some particular areas that they are seeing as a gap within executive vision, entrepreneurship. So in the government, that means how can a government employee, a government executive, bring some of the entrepreneurship from outside to the federal government. So a little bit better on risk, on how you carry through on an initiative, how to see those opportunities. And that feeds into, of course, influence, virtual leadership, and strategic program management. On the executive coaching side, we're looking for classes that align with ICF competencies and furnish ICF CEUs. We're also looking for some IT help here. We use for training, for those who are LMS belongs. We use Cornerstone as the backbone for what we're doing. We don't really have a backbone right now for our executive coaching database. So we're looking for that. We're looking for a database that we can track the coaching requests that we get from our clients, the assignments, and the hours. And next slide, please. I'm happy to take any questions you have right now, or again, as Melissa said, we'll be here at the end as well.
Well, Michelle, thank you very much. And we'll check the question box because there's we have a little box that folks can in the chat can put questions, and I'll ask Claudia if there are any questions in the chat box for Michelle.
I see something here about, let me see here. How do you utilize CLPs?
So Michelle, did you hear that? How do you utilize CLPs?
Yes, because each federal agencies can look at CLPs differently, we allow each of our partners, which for example includes ITA within commerce, to process a CLP which might be different than how Treasury does it. So we're more looking at the content. If there is an automatic certification, let's say with PMI, that's great. For the coaching side, it really does have to have ICF CEU because our internal cadre of coaches, everyone is ICF certified, so that is a standard, whereas within the federal agencies, what the specific requirements are for each job series might actually differ. So hopefully that answers. Let me know if it doesn't.
All right, thanks very much, Michelle. Anything else, Claudia or Kalala?
No, that's it.
Okay, Michelle, we want to thank you very much for that great presentation, and to the audience, all of her slides will be available on both agency websites. The Treasury is a big agency, but on my website also, and those will be at the end of the presentation, along with they can put those in the chat. Okay. So next up is who I mistakenly renamed her at the beginning of my introductions, is really Miss Mary Mckenzie, who is from the IRS, you know, that nice place that loves us all. And she is one of the senior folks there in the small business office. And Mary's going to talk to us about how to leverage the micro purchases. Show is yours, Mary.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Tommy, and also thank you, Lisa, for inviting the IRS here today to talk to the audience here for the HBCU Town Hall. My name again is Mary Mckenzie. I'm a procurement analyst here at the IRS, and I work in the small business office. Next slide, please. And next slide. So here is just a little bit of information about the Department of Treasury. They're divided into 10 bureaus. IRS is one of the bureaus at the Department of Treasury. And here in fiscal year 2019, we collected about $3.56 trillion in revenue, and also more than 253 million tax returns. So that's just a little bit of information about the IRS and what we do here. Next slide, please. This is some information here about the IRS Procurement Office in general. We are divided up into 3 offices, which we'll show you in the next slide, but we do deliver acquisitions in a timely fashion. We are here to service the taxpayers. In our office in particular, we are engaged in talking with our small business community to try to help them to navigate the process and to understand contracting at the IRS and at the Department of Treasury. Next slide, please. The Irs Procurement Office, we're nationwide. We have over 300 contracting personnel in our offices. We are, our main office here is in New Carrollton, Maryland, and that is the office that I sit in here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. We also do procurements for the Department of Treasury, Maine Treasury, and we also do IT acquisitions for the Bureau of Imprinting and Engraving. We have 2 field offices. We've just did a reorganization this year. So we've actually combined the 4 offices down into 2. So our national region is consisted of our new office in New York and our office in Oakland, California. Our southern region includes the offices in Dallas, Texas, and in Atlanta, Georgia. And so all of these field offices, we do procurements across the entire IRS. Here on this screen, you're able to see our 2020 accomplishments for our small business goals, where SBA comes in and grades the agency on how well we spend our dollars with the small business community. Our overall goal for small business this year was 32%, and we were able to achieve that. We made 37% of our dollars towards small business. And of course, the various socioeconomic goals within the small business community. We have small disadvantaged, women-owned, hub zone, and service disabled. And next slide, please. Here on this slide here, you will be able to see where our forecast of opportunities are located. They are all housed on the Department of Treasury's website. So if you could visit the www.tres.gov/OSDBU, and there you will see a link for the forecast of opportunities. You will see all of the bureaus there, so you will have to actually select the bureau in which you have interest in doing work with. And again, the IRS is one of those bureaus. We are actually one of the largest bureaus within the Department of Treasury, and therefore we do some acquisitions, again, like I said earlier, for IT at BEP, and we also do acquisitions also for departmental offices. And we do post our information. We have a division within procurement called the Office of Information Technology. That's our IT arm in procurement. And they actually post some of their forecast information on the beta.sam website under search contract opportunities. Next slide, please. Micro purchase information. We do micro purchases in accordance with FAR Part 13.201. And the preferred method, is the purchase card. And this is for a threshold of $10,000 and lower. We do communicate with our program offices in making decisions regarding their micro purchases. We ask that they do adequate market research, and that we are looking at trying, if possible, to provide that money to go to the small business community. Our contracting professionals, we do our due diligence in trying to provide fair opportunity at the market purchase, micro purchase threshold, as well as all of our procurements here at the IRS. Next slide, please. These are some of the areas where we buy non-IT. We do court reporting, sign language services, custodial and janitorial services, toner cartridges, guard services, just to name a few. We are divided into 2 areas in the procurement office now. We have our IT and our non-IT. So this is for our non-IT, and these offices, we have a group here in New Carrollton, and we also have the field offices in California, New York, Georgia, and in Texas. Next slide, please. Here we, with a team here within our procurement office, found some various NAICS codes where we believe that you, the HBCUs, would have an opportunity to do business here at the IRS. One of the larger areas that we have here are the other professional, scientific, and technical services, where we roughly have about a little over $6 million, close to $7 million. then support professional expert witnesses as well. So I'm going to leave this slide up for just a minute so that you all can take a look at this to kind of see some of the areas where you all actually may have an area of interest or where you can actually fit to do business here with the IRS. Next slide, please. Here, for the non-IT under buying trends, the IRS is looking at completing a Treasury-wide blanket purchase agreement for paid student interns. We did have some paid student interns last fiscal year. Due to COVID, I believe that we had a few changes, and some of the colleges and universities requested that their students return. So they were actually paid student interns here on site at the IRS. We are looking at evaluating the proposals here in the month of December, and we hope to have some awards coming up shortly. Some of the incumbent contractors, as you see we have on the screen, is Inroads. We have the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. We have the Washington Center and Coding It Forward. So these are some areas where your students at your colleges and universities could actually go and get information about these various organizations for paid internships, not only with the IRS and the Department of Treasury, but across the government as well. Next slide, please. These are some of the buying trends that we have for IT. The IRS does a lot of IT work, as you can imagine, with the taxes being automated, and especially this year in particular with COVID, a lot of federal agencies, and in particular the IRS, have had to rely a lot on IT. So these are some of the areas where we actually did a lot of our purchases for. So the ADP and telecommunication services, ADP software, ADP services and telecom and transmission, telephone equipment, central processing unit, and things are based upon the product service codes that are stored in FPDS. FPDS is a very good tool if you would like to utilize that to search to see exactly what it is we do purchase at the IRS. And also it would provide you an opportunity to be able to contact our office to get more information about what you do find there. Next slide, please. We did a search based on the information that Lisa had provided over to us for the colleges and universities. She gave us about 9 colleges and universities. And so what we did was we did a cross-reference between the NAICS codes and the information that she provided over to us. And here are a list of the NAICS codes across all of the colleges and universities that she submitted over to us. I know Alabama A&M, Fayetteville State University, and Oakwood University actually do have GSA schedules. That is something that we would highly encourage the HBCU community to look at also, to kind of see if they are able to obtain these GSA schedules as well. And I'll leave this up for just a minute. And next slide, please. So being equipped to do business with the government, we want to make sure that you can accept the purchase card. Again, that's for our micro purchases. Have good marketing skills. And you want to tell us what your niche is, exactly just what area are you specializing in. You want to make sure you have your people and your resources. You want to register in the SAM, System for Award Management, and also we have the DSBS, which is the SBA system of Dynamic Small Business Search. Next slide, please. So in summary, what really works for everybody, small businesses as well as HBCUs, is the relationship. So we are asking that you build relationships with us. So today or sometime this week or next week, if you're able, you want to reach out to us via email. We want to start networking with you. Look at the multiple contract vehicles again, the 3 universities that actually do have the GSA schedules. You want to continue to market to us. And just get involved. That's one of the things that we do ask. This particular presentation here that we're offering today, as well as the other outreach events that are hosted across Treasury, we ask that you get involved and attend those as well. And next slide, please. And here is our contact information. Again, I'm Mary Mckenzie, Procurement Analyst. LaTanya Bowman is actually our Small Business Specialist here at the IRS. And also we have Tanya Connor and Ramona Kelly. And here's our email address here at the bottom and a phone number for you to reach our office. And again, if you have any questions, just go ahead and you can ask us our questions, and I'll either answer them now or we'll answer them later this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. Outstanding. Claudia, any questions in the box? Mary, don't go away.
Yes.
Come on back, Mary.
There we go.
We have a question from the audience. Do you have to be in a contract vehicle to be eligible for micro purchases?
No, micro purchases, you do not have to be in a contract vehicle. If you would just contact our office directly, we could give you a little bit more information about that. Our purchase card holders, you have to request a FOIA, of course, to get that information, but we'll be more than welcome to give you that information. You don't even have to have a schedule to do business with the IRS. We just do a lot of work on the schedules, and we use the area of contracting that we call best in class. But if you reach out to us, we will sit down with you and give you more information about how that works.
We have one more question.
Go ahead.
Yep. What is the process to include or consider Native American-owned businesses and tribal colleges and university in the mix?
We consider all. We do not exclude anyone, so that would not be a problem. We actually do direct, and I see Lisa coming on board also. But yes, we do all of that. We use the tribally owned, we use the any of the schedules, and we are more than happy to be able to award contracts starting with the HBCUs as well.
Okay. Any other questions we have, we will compile those questions and forward them to Mary and her team, and we'll get responses. Just to amplify what she said, you don't need a schedule to do business with any federal agency, but it actually increases your opportunity, because the current policy that we're operating off of at the federal agencies is a best-in-class vehicles before doing individual contracts. So it's just it's a tool in your toolbox to have. That's a good one to have and leverage. So okay, so we'll move on to our next presenter, which is none other than Miss Melissa Jenkins, who's in charge of all of this that's going on today, and she's going to talk to us about Treasury initiatives. Melissa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today to learn more about partnering with the U.S. Department of Treasury on our HBCU initiative. When you think of advancements in computer technology, you probably think of names like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, but there are many engineers and inventors who have left their marks in the field. Today, we would like to say thank you. Thank you to Dr. Mark E. Dean, an African-American scientist who spent over 30 years at IBM working to make computers more accessible and powerful. Next slide, please. In 2017, U.S. businesses reached a record-breaking research and development R&D performance of $400 billion. Right now, we project that next year, that number will change to $600 billion, which is an increase that had far exceeded increases from previous years in research and development. So what we've learned that is, however, given the perilous times due to COVID-19, we are now confronting as a nation and as a world that there needs to be a call for new and increased tax offerings, credit buyback models, and R&D partnership agreements, and other financial and treasury options and models that can be created with historically Black universities and historically Black colleges and universities. So from that, we learned that we need HBCUs to game up, particularly when we know that you are being gifted the opportunity by virtue of Executive Order 13779. 13779 opens the capacity for HBCUs that are interested in pursuing contracts, grants, and opportunities to be able to get into the game in federal government contracts and grants. And we do need you to be responsive. Be responsive to these opportunities by using tactical tools and building out an internal dashboard. By that I mean you will build an internal dashboard for each federal agency that you are seeking a federal contract grant and or opportunity. You can do this best by populating in your dashboard the strategic plan. All federal agencies publish a strategic plan. So you do want to be able to understand the institutional rigor of that federal agency partner by populating the strategic plan so you can be sure to capture narratives that are crosswalk to your HBCU. The other tool of information, and Ms. Mary brought that up, is the System for Award Management. The System for Award Management tracks contractual opportunities in federal government space. So that is where you want to be sure that you populate your information in our repository, because we want to know if you are interested in doing work with us. So you want to make sure that your SAM Beta profile has your correct point of contact at your university. If your point of contact resides in the Office of Sponsored Programs, you want to make sure that the phone number is correct. Your email address is correct. If you are participating in certain NAICS code, any requisite NAICS codes, you want to make sure that is inclusive of all of your schools of disciplines, right? Because if we do publish a procurement opportunity and you do not have that resident NAICS code in your SAM Beta profile, we do not know that you have experience in that arena. So we want to make sure that your capabilities in SAM Beta is inclusive of all of your disciplines, not just one. The other thing that we would like you to do is also add the agency's forecast of contracting opportunities. All federal agencies are required to publish a forecast of contracting opportunities. For the Department of Treasury, our forecast can be found at www.treasury.gov/OSDBU, and that is OSDBU. And you will be able to find a forecast of contracting opportunities. We also have opportunities that are segmented, thanks to Mr. Brian Watson, as COVID-19 requirements. So again, the website www.treasury.gov/OSDBU. We also encourage you to truly read our strategic plan and our OMB budget submission, because all of those tools provide information, not only information about the agency, it also provides you information about the requirement. In our OMB budget submission, it tells you squarely the program office that you will support. And I think that gives you a little bit of a level up when you understand the program office that you support when you are seeking a requirement. And then the other thing that I would be remiss to mention is if there is an opportunity that has been awarded in the past, nothing precludes you from doing a FOIA request. So you can contact us if you're interested in learning more about the incumbent by virtue of a FOIA request. And we love at Treasury OSDBU when small businesses and our historically Black colleges and universities reach out to us by email, telling us how we can improve our business processes, but as well as telling us that they are interested in our resident requirements at our agency. So we do want you to start stacking your deck. We want you to stack your deck with the President's Management Agenda. The President's Management Agenda can be found. You can go to on Google rather, and you can do a search for the President's Management Agenda. There again, it provides you with intel on the entire federal enterprise, but also it delves deeper into compliance, right? Compliance is something that we know everyone needs to be in. Small businesses, large businesses, and HBCUs, and federal government. And you can learn more about those areas where we have gaps in federal government. And those areas can be found at the Government Accountability Office. The Government Accountability Office website is www.gao.gov. And I would like you to take a moment to go there. Again, the website, www.gao.gov. And once you're there, I'll give you a moment to be able to click on that hyperlink. You will click on a tab that states Key Issues. When you click on the tab that says Key Issues, you will see, if you scroll down towards the center, there's a tab that says, with an eagle, Federal Agencies. Once you click on Federal Agencies, it would allow you to down select Agency. And in this conversation, we would like you to choose us, U.S. Department of Treasury. And when you click on U.S. Department of Treasury, you're going to see areas that we need to bring into compliance, but you're also going to see opportunities where your HBCU and or small business can help provide a solution at our agency. And when you're able to show as a leader at Treasury, what we love that when someone is receptive to what we're doing and they're doing their requisite homework to be able to pursue contracts where they are saying yes to wanting to increase capacity and competitiveness and get their seat at the table at Treasury to be considered, right? While we, Hbcus, cannot promise any small business or any HBCU a contract, what we can do is help you get the knowledge that you need for procurement readiness, because we want to make sure that you're ready. We want to make sure that your capability statement speaks to the requirement. Hence the reason why we want to make sure that you take advantage of all the free resources that we have to offer. Today, when you signed up, you were able to see our Small Business 360 Impact Report, our access to business opportunities, our NAICS code. Our NAICS codes brochure shows you our top 25 NAICS codes where the U.S. Department of Treasury has buying activity. We want you to be paying attention to those NAICS codes, because those NAICS codes, as you correlate it to what your HBCU can offer, will tell you if that's an area that we're buying in. Next slide, please. This slide speaks about Executive Order 13779. We love this executive order at Treasury because, again, it provides capacity and competitiveness for HBCUs to effectively compete for grants and contracts at Treasury. According to a report that was done by the Congressional Research Service, they stated that many HBCUs face difficulties competing for federal research dollars in comparison to other research performing universities. Is it that they are experiencing difficulties? And of course, I do want you to inbox me, right? My email address is melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov. So if you can be able to digress and let us know, what are the areas that you need help with? Is it that you may not know that opportunities exist within Treasury for you to pursue a federal contract and or grant, as to why you have not received that path of resistance? Or is it that you need help and guidance on how to do that? Or do you need help with your capability statement? If these are things that you need, we need you to let us know. The MBDA provides procurement technical assistance, so you can get help there, as well as Treasury Aussie. We have our vendor outreach sessions and other engagements that you can participate in so that you can get the requisite training and knowledge to pursue opportunities with Treasury. We've also learned that over the last decade, higher education institutions have received over $123 billion in federal contract revenue, but less than 0.5% of that funding has gone to HBCUs. So today, this dialogue is not only to build a relationship, this dialogue is also to close the gap for you HBCUs. So again, we want you to inbox us and let us know where do you need help and how we can best level up our customer service to you. Next slide, please. This slide talks about other supporting executive orders for HBCUs. We have Executive Order 12928, where it promoted procurement for HBCUs and disadvantaged small businesses and minority serving institutions, as well as we have Executive Order 13562 that speaks about recruiting and hiring students and recent graduates. How important is that right now? We do want our students to be able to get hired in fields that they're getting their education in. So this executive order is very critical, particularly during this trying time that we're going through. We also have Executive Order 13707, which talks about using behavioral science insights to better serve the American people. Again, I do want you to access all of these executive orders so you can learn more about how you can get a seat at the table. We also have Executive Order 13800. This is an HBCU sweet spot, which is in strengthening the cybersecurity of federal networks and critical infrastructure. So certainly if your university is offering cybersecurity and IT degrees, should this be an area that your university is playing in? Most certainly so. So we want you to look at that. Then we also have Executive Order 13828, which talks about reducing poverty in America by promoting opportunity and economic mobility. And that is something that is hinged to Treasury's mission. So again, we do want you to game up and level up as you partner with our agency. Next slide, please. This slide talks about the initiative laid out under Executive Order 13779, with Treasury intending to be the forerunner, right? We want to be the front runner in promoting and tapping into the excellence and innovation of HBCUs to increase diversity and inclusion in research and development in the areas of IT modernization and data and analytics opportunities for minority business enterprises and HBCUs. We also want to create the first university-affiliated research center. Again, we want to create the first university-affiliated research center within a cabinet-level agency, and we want to drive and be the economic catalyst for that opportunity and increase the use of HBCUs in federal acquisitions and grants federal government-wide. We want to do that federal government-wide because we don't want to keep everything in-house at Treasury. We want to be able to spread the wealth. The next slide, please. This slide talks about increasing diversity and inclusion for research and development opportunities for minority business enterprises and HBCUs in federally funded research centers and university-affiliated research centers. What we have learned at Treasury, Aussie, is HBCUs have never been invited and or approached to lead a UARC in critical national and economic security. And so we do want to continue to invite you to participate, because we just don't want to be having these webinars and coming on stage, right? And inviting you to our vendor outreach sessions and industry days, and then you're not being participatory. We want it to be an even exchange. So while we are coming out to host these webinars, we are hoping that we will increase the traction from you HBCUs reaching out to us, letting us know that you are ready to partner and help us be the first cabinet level agency creating a UARC. We also see that HBCUs have been marginalized and excluded from competing and becoming affiliated with non-traditional funding mechanisms such as UARCs. The barriers that we, in our mind, from where we sit, that keep HBCUs rather from the federal marketplace include lack of federal contracting knowledge and experience. Again, lack of federal contracting knowledge and experience. So we want to change that narrative. Does it mean that we should develop train-the-trainer programs? Most certainly so. If that is something that you're interested in and you want to include that federal contracting in your curriculum, again, inbox me so we could learn more about that. The other thing is the lack of understanding of different funding streams, such as grants versus traditional government contracts. The lack of infrastructure to effectively compete and administer contracts. If that is an issue, then again, let us know about that. Or the perception that obtaining a federal contract is too daunting, or that no help or training is available. Know that today that you are in the best seat in the house. Training is available, and we're here to get you procurement ready. And traditional academic institutions rarely reach out to share. So we definitely want to change that, and we do know that quite a few other universities are willing to share, but they need to know that you are interested. And you can become interested by reaching out and partnering with those universities. Next slide, please. This next slide talks about the idea of Treasury embarking on the University Affiliated Research Center within our agency. And some of the areas that we see capacity are in the areas of digital currency, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, quantum encryption, supply data chain analytics, quantum computing, blockchain. So we also would like to establish an HBCU Center for Financial IT Excellence. Again, an area where we know you will excel tremendously. Next slide, please. Drive economic catalysts. We want to continue to encourage the collaboration amongst large businesses, federal prime, small businesses, to include all of the socioeconomic concerns, and HBCUs with a focus on minority and socioeconomic disadvantaged businesses. We also want to support underrepresented and minority communities where workforce development is needed most. Next slide, please. We want to increase the use of HBCUs in federal acquisition and grants. You just heard from Ms. Mary Mckenzie from the IRS. She's one of our best small business specialists in the field. And again, she talked a little bit about the areas of capacity on just a small offering of HBCUs. So if your HBCUs was not in that stack, then you want to make sure that you send me an email and provide your capability statements so we can see additional areas of capacity for your university. At Treasury Osabu, we plan to collaborate with the SBA to build a centralized HBCU repository so that we can have more efficient access to HBCU offerings by contract, so that program officers are aware that you are there and ready to participate in federal contracts and grants. We also want to facilitate mentor-protege relationships between high-performing private sector businesses and HBCUs. We also, again, we're back to wanting to augment HBCU curriculum to include federal contracts and grants, including train-the-trainer course offerings and internships that can lead to HBCUs for federal contracting direct hire positions. Those positions can be found on usajobs.gov. And if you're thinking of the series, that will be 1102. So in that toolbox, you will type in 1102, and more than likely, a lot of those jobs are direct hire opportunities. Next slide, please. This slide talks about our Treasury Aussie initiative benefits. One is to strengthen national and economic security, leverage the knowledge, resources, and innovation of HBCUs and minority business enterprises, encourage public and private sector involvement in improving the overall capacity of HBCUs, and also strengthen the capacity of HBCUs to participate in federal programs government-wide, and increase the number of HBCUs that hold GSA multiple award schedule contracts, and foster private sector initiatives and public-private partnerships, and most importantly, increase diversity in contracting and increase workforce diversity inclusion. How cool is that, right? Next slide, please. This slide talks about our program guidelines in areas where we would like to increase capacity. So this is something that we definitely want you to take a look at. In essence of time, I will have to probably skim over a couple of the slides. Next slide, please. And this talks about our program execution and what we will do at Treasury. So these, again, it talks about how we would like to augment the curriculum and track and publish our departmental level HBCU acquisition goals for all participating federal agencies. Next slide, please. This slide talks about frequently asked questions that HBCUs may have, and we want you to take a look at that. And then if you have any additional questions that you would like to add to this, then certainly inbox me so that we can at best publish it on our website with frequently asked questions so that we are being responsive to our HBCU community. Next slide, please. This slide shows an example of what an HBCU and a small business partnership would look like. While I won't go into each and every slide of the small businesses, these are areas that you guys can certainly see how this teaming and partnership can work. Next slide, please. Again, this is another example of how an HBCU and MBE partnership example will look like. Want to fast forward to the next several slides, please, that bypass the HBCU MBE partnership examples. Okay, so the White House here, sorry. So what you will see here is that we have a litany of examples where HBCUs can collaborate with small businesses to be able to pursue federal contracts and grants with Treasury. So I'm honored to share with you today the fact that HBCUs have been delivering capabilities, experience, and overall value to federal agencies for decades, using HBCUs for their innovation, niche capabilities, and better overall value is not a new concept. Seeking them as a source to deliver world-class solutions is a newer concept. So we want to make sure that we are inclusive of you, HBCUs, and small businesses for contract and grant opportunities and the pursuit of research and development opportunities, and gaming up to pursue federal funded research development centers and university affiliated research centers. It is my vision that the SBA will continue to embrace and understand the unique differentiators that distinguish HBCUs from large businesses and federal agencies. HBCUs must invest in the intellectual capital to provide more applicable innovation and deliver solutions more efficiently, and retain more qualified skilled resources and more affordable rates for the government. It is my vision that the White House initiative for HBCUs provide a funding pilot that will help you guys get the requisite knowledge that you need for procurement readiness, and providing a pathway so that you can clearly pursue contracts and grants by virtue of FAR regulation, right? A pilot that focuses on memorializing the experiential outcomes that result in successful HBCU contract captures and performance transition. We are so delighted that you have joined the U.S. Department of Treasury and MBDA for our HBCU Town Hall. We hope that you will continue to track us, inbox us, and say yes to wanting to game up to pursue federal contracts and grants. Again, my name is Lisa Jenkins. I serve as the Woman-Owned Small Business Program Manager and In-Reach and Outreach Program Manager at the U.S. Department of Treasury. And we are so delighted that you are here today to want to get a seat at the table. And now I will turn it back to Mr. Marks for question and answer.
Well, Melissa, I'll tell you, I'm overwhelmed, actually. Just so many opportunities that that we can take advantage of, that one can take advantage of. And shortly, what I'll do is I'll bridge the gap with MBDA, the Federal Procurement Center, and Treasury and HBCUs. But first, we'll go to our question folks and see if there are any questions from the field for you based on that outstanding rendition of the initiatives that you all are taking at Treasury. Claudia?
Yes, we do have some questions. The first question is, how many mentor companies does the agency work with every year?
In the U.S. Department of Treasury repository, we have to the tune of over 3,000 small businesses in our repository. And I'm happy to report that by virtue of engagements such as these, over 140 small businesses have been able to get contracts. And I mean contracts at Treasury that they were never playing in before, right? They never had a contract with Treasury, and by participating in vendor outreach engagements such as these, they got a contract. And one of those small businesses got a contract over $3 million during COVID-19. So certainly we do want you to continue to participate when we send these emails out for webinars or engagements where we are providing capacity. We want you to sign up and have your seat at the table at these engagements, as well as inbox and respond to opportunities that become available at the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Okay. Claudia, any other questions?
Yes, second question, can small business entities with past performance with Treasury partner with HBCUs to pursue grants and contracts that support R&D activities and receive tax credits? I know it's a lot.
Right, so that is an area that we are exploring in terms of the tax credit, right? The R&D tax credit. The R&D tax credit is the largest tax credit that a business can get, right? So that is an area of exploration on how we are working diligently in Treasury Aussie to increase that tax credit offering in terms of partnering with an HBCU. I'm so delighted. You want me to cry happy tears on screen today. I'm so delighted that a small business is receptive and interested in bringing an HBCU on their team. And that is something that we are considering in the subcontracting evaluation factors for businesses that partner with HBCUs to provide extra credit. So thank you so much for your question.
Okay, Claudia.
I noticed, let me see here. How open is the agency to award a small award to a small business that has never primed work before?
We're very open and very receptive at Treasury. We are open doors. If you've done your homework and you've done all that you can to become procurement ready and you have past performance, that is all considered for you to get a requirement at Treasury. Again, we brought in over 140 small businesses that never had a contract with us. So definitely, if you want to be considered for an opportunity, send me an email. My email address is melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov.
We have another question. How many HBCUs are on board working with this program?
All have expressed an interest. All 100, a little bit over 103 of them have expressed an interest in participating in federal contracts and grants. So we're working diligently in getting them tooled up, getting their capability statement together. We even started working on developing a capability matrix, a distro list that is inclusive of all of the vice chancellors and presidents at the universities. We do also have a distro list for the School of Business for the HBCUs, and now we're going down that path of developing additional distro lists for all of the disciplines at that HBCU university so that we could ensure that their capability statement is inclusive of all of their NAICS codes and all of their past performance, because we realize that some of the schools don't talk to each other, so we want to make sure that they are inclusive of all. So they are very, very interested and ready to tool up.
We have one more question. Does the agency know of HBCUs that are looking for small businesses to partner with?
We do have a handful of HBCUs that have reached out to us that have already formed their teams with small businesses, and we do have some that have made inquiries, yes.
And one more, does the Treasury consider sponsoring small businesses and HBCUs for facility clearances?
That's a question that I will have to take back to my senior leadership. So I'm unable to answer that question right now, but definitely it is a note to file, and I will be taking that back to my senior leadership once this call adjourns.
That's great, Melissa. I would, as you take that one back, I think just for some clarification, when it comes to facility clearances, the sponsorship really partially comes through another contractor that has a clearance already. So I mean, if the agency can sponsor that, that's outstanding. I'd like to, before we bring the other panelists back on the screen, just try to just tie together a little bit why, you know, what's this relationship between MVDA, Federal Procurement Center, Treasury, and what's happening in the HBC community. And you hit up on it. In fact, all three panelists, if I'm not mistaken, hit up on it. The bottom line is the way we're doing business in the federal government today, you know, HBCUs, and especially what we bring to the table from the Minority Business Development Agency in particular, we are part of a consortium. My center is a part of a consortium that Sharon Pender heads, and I have a colleague, Dennis Smith, who runs the Washington, D.C. Business Center that focuses on local, state, and private industry, where I focus totally on the federal space. But together, we got a triple threat, if you will, where we have vendors that can provide assistance, as you talked about, when it's really about teaming, going after acquisition opportunities that in particular an HBCU could bring to the table, and a minority small business in and of itself can work with them, partnering to make those ventures successful, if you will. And so I want to share with the folks that there were at least 5 handouts hung in the chat that you had available. If you didn't, if you click the down button on your chat box on the menu bar, you see 5 handouts that will also be hung on both websites. Melissa's website, she says Treasury, but it's www.tres.gov/OSDU. And then mine is www.mbdafpc.com. And the recording of this webinar, along with the handouts, will all be hung on both websites. So you have them for future use. The couple of takeaways, and then I'll ask Mary and Michelle to come back on. You know, if you were taking notes, Mary told you that Treasury has how many bureaus? You know, it's a test question. It's 10. And on today, you got to see one, and the Treasury Executive Institute is another entity, and they all have requirements, and they have needs, and they procure things. The FPDS-NG, you won't find it anymore. You got to go to beta.sam.gov and hit the contracts data tab. That's where FPDS-NG now resides. But the lot of great information. So I'm going to ask the team to come back on screen, and if Michelle's still there, she'd be there audio, and we'll see if there are any other questions before we go to closing remarks with Melissa and I. Michelle, you still here with us?
Yeah, I'm still here and
Okay.
happy to answer any questions folks have.
All right. So at this time, if we got any other questions from the audience, we got the full team on screen and I'm prepared to answer those questions. If you're too shy, as long as you wrote them in the chat box, we collect those questions and they'll go to the appropriate personnel. So I'll ask my high-speed monitors of the question box if we got any other questions.
When will the next vendor outreach session be?
Melissa, when's the next vendor outreach session?
Sure. We're hoping to have our next vendor outreach session in January, and the dates are to follow. So we'll be sending an email to all of the small businesses that are in our repository on our next scheduled date. Of course, if you are not registered in our repository, then certainly, again, send me an email, melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov, so I can be sure to point you to how you can become registered in our repository. Thank you.
There was a question earlier that there was a non-HBCU hub zone company that was tuning in today, but they were interested in working and teaming with HBCUs. They wanted to know if there was a list of HBCUs and contact information available to the public.
We do have our information, and we'll be happy to provide that with our slides and other stuff on our website, yes.
So Claudia, anything else in the box?
We have another question. Is there any way that small 8A firms can demonstrate capabilities? They found that sometimes the RFP process is not the best in demonstrating technical skills.
So is there a way for small 8A companies to demonstrate their technical ability?
This is Mary Mckenzie at the IRS. So I would like to say that yes, you can contact the IRS and we will put you in touch with contracting officers. And then you could request maybe to do a presentation to those contracting officers, and they can invite the program staff that they work with. If you are familiar or have had contact with former program offices or any of the contracting officers currently at the IRS, you could actually reach directly to them. You wouldn't even have to come to us to request to do a demo.
Okay, great. Another one is, do you have any construction contract opportunities available?
We will need to defer you to our forecast of contracting opportunities that could be found on our website at www.treasury.gov/ASABU. And there you'll be able to see if we do have any current construction contracting opportunities. Thank you.
There was a question earlier, what was the minimum for micro purchases, the max for the micro?
$10,000 for the micro purchase threshold.
Okay.
That's the max.
Are there opportunities for working with the government or IRS specifically for individuals, small business owners who attended HBCUs?
So if your company, if you have your company and you are procurement ready, you're more than welcome to meet with our office. We do vendor meetings one-on-one with companies, and we can talk with you, go over your capability statement. We can also look at your profile in SAM and your profile in the Dynamic Small Business Search and give you some pointers and tips to that as well. And we will forward your capability statement along to our contracting staff. So yes.
And let me just add on to what, because I think the question posed is whether or not there is a set aside for if I went to an HBCU, had my company, and I can do business with the government. So there are no set asides currently in the federal government space for if you went to HBCU, or even a bigger thing where I work at with minority businesses, right? And we focus on 5 ethnic categories: African American, Asian American, which includes what if you got ethnic background or born in India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, which include Pacific Islands and Alaskan Natives and Hasidic Jews. And so we work in the Minority Business Development Agency to work very closely with minority businesses in the federal space and in corporate America as a whole. But there are no set asides for minority businesses. Unlike, and so here's the difference. The small business community, and most minority businesses are small businesses. So on the small business side, the SBA that operates under the law, the Small Business Act, does set asides in one of 4 ways. If you are an 8A company, then there are by law 8A set asides for 8A companies only, and that's done by the auspices under the SBA rules, the Small Business Act rules. If you are a woman-owned business, and they can find 2 qualified women-owned businesses, they can then, the contracting officer can make a decision to set that acquisition aside just for that socioeconomic category. If you're a service-disabled veteran and you can find 2 qualified companies, and the key word is qualified, then the contracting officer can make a decision to set that aside. If you are a hub zone company and they can find 2 qualified hub zone companies and they want to put in a hub zone, they can then make a decision to set aside. Now, what's the key? The key really is when the RFIs that go out from the IRS, from their contracting officers, a request for information or a source of sorts, they need you to answer those RFIs or source of sorts, because it will tell you we're trying to make a determination in the acquisition process to set aside this work, take it out of full and open, so it is set aside for small businesses. Okay. And we need you to do that. Now, I will tell you, there are people that are advocates that we ought to have set aside for minority businesses. Okay, that's a whole nother webinar topic that we don't have time for today. But there are folks that are working, and that to include in Congress, because we're not codified by law like the Small Business Act on the minority business side. And that's what that question lends to, which is a very good question. Okay. But we're not there yet. Where we are is we do have an agency that's responsible for working with minority businesses. And we got federal agencies like what we went through today, based on the executive orders from the White House, that focus on historically black colleges and universities. And we're trying to pull that together as a team. So any other questions out there in the question box? Not trying to run anybody off, but if we don't have any, then we'll move to closing. My two question gurus.
I see one last question. Does the contracting office plan to put language in solicitations to reference preferences for teaming with HBCUs?
I can't speak for, and I'm no longer really a government guy. I'm on the other side of the fence. But when I was a government guy, okay, and I ran the Army Small Business Office, one of the things we did is in mentor-protege relationships, language can be put in there. I believe Melissa even talked to this, that if you're going to be a mentor-protege in the Army, the mentor and the protege, the third leg of that stool was an HBCU or a minority serving institution in order for you to get that, because we actually funded our mentor-protege programs. You know, the SBA has mentor-protege programs. They're not funded. So can that be written in? You know, my contracting time dates me when I was at KO, but yes, there's language that can be put in for that to take place. And I think agencies are starting to look at that.
Tommy, there's an MBE that would like to present their new technology software. How would they go about doing that?
Who do you want to present it to?
I guess Treasury.
Tell them, so if you want to do Treasury, I think they both said go to their websites, and Melissa gave out her email address. Contact them, and they can put you in touch with the right people. You can also get in contact with my office, and we can talk further by going to info at mbda-fpc.com, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
And then if you're interested in doing that presentation of your capabilities, again, send me an email with your capability statement so I can make that introduction to our wonderful, wonderful small business specialists. At the Osbu, we did not get to that goal by just virtue of the Osbu shop. We got to that goal because of the small business specialists, where we exceeded our small business prime goal, right? So my email address is melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov. Again, melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov, and I will be sure to make those virtual introductions to our small business specialists, who are very responsive and will provide the requisite information that you need to be considered for a requirement there, so as long as it's available at their bureau. So again, melissa.jenkins@treasury.gov, and I'll work on getting that meeting scheduled for you. Thank you.
So Melissa, this has been great. A lot of good information. I mean,
Yes,
we got
yes.
the slides and then in the handouts. So folks definitely take advantage of that. Do your homework. And as Mary said, and I often say this to people, a lot of times folks want to go for the big contracts. Past performance is built by executing a mission for the federal government. And past performance starts with, if you contract for $1, you got to deliver something. And if you don't deliver it, Tommy Marks is at default. If I deliver and I'm good, Mary Mckenzie and crew signs off, give me a green check mark. So, you know, those micro purchases builds past performance. And the simplified acquisition threshold, which is $250,000, if I got the number correct, then below that is a lot of money agencies are awarding contracts, or even depend on what agency you go to. You know, DOD got some real special rules where they can use their credit card for a lot of money. But the bottom line is, the key is micro purchases builds past performance. And with any contract action, it is past performance that makes the day.
And I would also like to add as well, past performance is not necessarily past performance in the government. So a lot of institutions there, you do work. So that is your past performance. So you don't have to wait until you get government contracts to state that you have past performance. That is your past performance wherever you are doing your work. If you're doing it in the public sector, in your state, in your local municipalities, or just with other companies in the area at your college and university, that is your past performance.
It just needs to match the requirement that you're trying to go after. That is the key. Okay. It almost sounds like a wrap. So I'll go around the horn and pause for a moment for the audience. If you got any more questions, you can send them in and we will definitely get them answered for you. But I want to thank my co-host and colleague, Miss Melissa Jenkins, and Miss Mary Mckenzie, and Miss Michelle Zager. I got all the names right this time at the end. Okay. For a wonderful event, a lot of great information. And up on the screen now, you see the Treasury website. That's Melissa's website. Actually, that is the Treasury website. And as Mary said, when you get in there, then you can pick the bureau, the 1 of 10 that you want to go to.
Correct.
Okay. So we thank you all for attending, and look for the Treasury's next event after the first of the year, probably after the inauguration. And you know, the president-elect has been sworn in. I can say that because I'm not a government official. And then everybody is really getting back to work. Okay. But if you want to find out some more about what we do, you can go to my website, as I gave you, which is www.mbdahfpc.com, or you can Google Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. Go to their website. Our link is there, both my center and Dennis Smith Center, which is the Minority Business Development Agency's District of Columbia Center. And you can search there, and all the hot sheets that we've been doing, webinars that we've done since COVID-19, with all kinds of information in there. You'll find that. And so with that, I'll say happy holidays to all. Stay safe. And this is Melissa, Mary, Michelle, and Tommy signing off. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.